We could.
Yeah. He's Bruce the Blog.
And he's Santa Claus Bazzo, and you're watching Bruce the Blog Goes Bazzo, our Christmas and Hanukkah show.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our holiday edition, if you want to put it that way. And
Christmas show.
Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, what have you. And I will be talking about that in a little bit, about the season's greetings issue, or controversy, or whatever you want to call it. And if you're watching this on cable, you're watching it on the third night of Hanukkah, and that's why we have the menorah here. This, for those of you who may not be aware, is called the shamus that you use to light the other candles. So this would be, let's say, the first night, and this would be the second night. And I didn't mention, if this menorah looks a little funny, you know, there's a big trend in movies, 3D. This is a 3D menorah because I can't figure out how to do it in a linear fashion, so it must be 3D. And let's just say this is the third night. Now, as Bazzo likes to remind everybody, if you're watching it on YouTube, because you can see our shows now on YouTube. I mean, I don't know, you might be watching it on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th night, or maybe Hanukkah's over. And of course, if you are watching on cable, we're only a few days away, 3 days away from Christmas, 2 days away from Christmas Eve. And we don't have a guest because the holidays are a guest, right,
yes,
Bazzo?
Absolutely.
And if you didn't recognize Bazzo, it's because he has his Santa Claus outfit on.
With my New York Yankee emblem, because baseball being the only true sport that's out there.
Okay, we'll get to that too.
But I wanted to also remember we have to thank Denise Wilson, who puts up the best of Bruce the Blog Goes Bazzo on YouTube in the complete 30 minutes run where there's no break in the show.
And as I mentioned to Bazzo, I ran into Westchester County Legislator John Testa the other day at one of the many holiday parties that take place during the holiday season. And Legislator Testa actually was curious. He said, how do you guys get all 30 minutes of your show in one shot on YouTube? Because YouTube's policy is, what, 15 minutes?
15.
And Denise Wilson must have some magic formula for doing it. And Legislator Testa, of course, has his own show, and he was curious how she gets it. And my response when he asked me was, I honestly don't know. But we'll find out. And also, I just wanted to mention that what I'm wearing may look to you like a sweater, but as our director, Dennis Tate, will tell you, this is actually a test pattern. It is. It's a test. Remember test patterns on TV?
Yes.
When I put it on, I said, I'm wearing a test pattern, which is perfect for this show. And then this, I think, is called a scarf. But the salute, I have a couple of different salutes.
80 degrees in here, and he's wearing a scarf, folks.
And you're wearing a hat and a sweatshirt. The salute of the week, one of the salutes of the week, goes to my alma mater. I often have this cup on the desk. It says Syracuse University. And recently, when you're watching this, whether it's on YouTube or Cablevision, this may no longer be true, but as of right this real-time moment, Syracuse's basketball team is #1 in the country, my alma mater, and I'm very happy about that. Now, we all know that if you follow the news, there's another issue going on regarding the basketball team. This has nothing to do with it. I don't want to get into that for this holiday show. But purely in terms of their sportsmanship and athleticism, they're ranked #1 in the NCAA college basketball polls. And so I salute good old Syracuse University and the Orange and the basketball team. Another one is, well, I think we're saluting the holidays, no matter what holiday you may celebrate. And you know something, maybe you don't celebrate any holiday, and that's fine too. It's whatever you do this time of year, just enjoy the season. That's what we say. And also quickly, I want to salute, I was at the Peekskill Rotary Luncheon the other day. The guest of Marie Green of Edward Jones. And Marie is great. Marie's like the Uber networker, but she does it on a one-to-one basis. She's great about connecting people for business purposes, for social purposes, just for personal purposes. She's really great to know and a really great person. She invited me and Tony Mosca, who was a friend of ours at Chase Media Group, which sponsors the show, Penny Saver, to the Peekskill Rotary. Have you ever been to a Peekskill Rotary meating?
No, I haven't.
It's a lot of fun. They get up and they have what they call happy finds and sad finds. You know, like they'll have people, sergeants they call them, who walk around and they sort of tease each other about things. So it could be a sad find, but it could be just something funny about another person, all in good fun, good-natured. It could be a happy occasion in their family. You know, somebody's wife had been out of work for a week. She fell down the stairs. Now she's back at work. He had a happy find. Jim Witt. You know what Jim Witt is?
Yes, he
Jim
was
Witt's
my science teacher in high school.
He was, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Jim Witt, of course, for many years has been a very well-known meteorologist in the area. We know Jim and his wife Nancy. Very, very sadly, we both share the loss of a son.
He started the weather club at Lakeland High School.
And he has a great foundation. He has the Hope for Youth Foundation, Jim Witt, that does great work and raises a lot of money.
There was a time when the Lakeland High School weather department, weather club, was more accurate than the local weather.
Right.
Because Jim Witt was, and he's still more accurate.
Oh, he's great. Well, but here's the story. Here's a great anecdote. So Jim Witt's at the Peekskill Rotary Luncheon. He's one of the members. I'm sitting with Marie Green, with Tony Mosca, who works for Michael Vanderwerker Insurance.
Such a name dropper.
Yeah, well, no, but that's, I think people like to hear stuff like that. Maybe a lot of people watching know who I'm mentioning, different people. And then on the other side of me, to continue the name dropping, Don Rizzo, a lot of people know, big, handsome Don Rizzo is a great guy. And then Bill Dowster is an executive, also a very nice guy, great guy, Bill Dowster. He's an executive at Hudson Valley Hospital Center. So Jim Witt gets up and he tells this quick story about, as some people get this time of year at their office or at home, a big gift box from somebody. And he said, he opens it up and it has all the usual stuff, fruit and whatnot. And the card reads from Stephen King. And I go to Bill Dowster. I said, did he say Stephen King? He goes, yeah, the novelist. I go, yeah, I know who Stephen King is. And Bill Dowster says to me, Jim is the meteorologist for a radio station in Maine owned by Stephen King. Isn't that a great story?
Yes.
Yeah.
My customers this time of year when it comes to giving gifts have always said, Andy, nothing is too good for you. So that's what they give me.
Nothing. The other interesting story, I think a lot of people in this area, certainly in Peekskill, and even if you're not from or living in Peekskill, know Arthur Weeks Jewelers is one of the oldest, most respected businesses in this area. And so one of the new members inducted into the Peekskill Rotary when I was there was the great-grandson of the founder, Arthur Weeks. I believe they said he founded it in 1896.
Something like that. It's right on the awning.
So John Weeks, his great-grandson, was there. His father was there. His father's name is Arthur Douglas Weeks, but to differentiate, they call him Doug Weeks. And so his son is now being inducted into the Peekskill Rotary. And you know what they do? It's a great tradition. When you're a new member, like John Weeks now is, you get a hat, a white hat, and you have to go around and ask all the other members of your Rotary to sign the hat. And then when you get enough signatures, every meeting you go, may I now take off the hat, which then sort of really makes you a full-fledged member. And what they do is they don't make it easy. They go, no, you can't. Why? And then they tell you. So Bill Dowster, I know, recently joined. So I turned to Bill Dowster. I go, Bill, how long did you have to wear that hat? And he said to me, 9 months. 9 months. I said, you could have had a baby in that time. Well, he couldn't, but his wife could have.
When Nino's received, grown men are doing this.
What?
Really grown business people. These are the heads of our business community.
What's wrong with that? It's fraternal. Well, grown men and women. I mean, grown men and women do this. What's wrong? It's a lot of fun. It's it's an initiation rite.
These are the leaders of our community.
Yes, that's right.
It's a scary thought. Well, anyway, but when Nino still existed.
Well, and by the way, we're all joking aside, as you know, Rotary does tremendous
Yes,
good work.
I was joking.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, Rotary, all Rotaries, you know, it's an international organization, obviously. They do tremendous work for the underprivileged in third world countries, giving them, you know, filtered water where they don't have water and things like that.
When Nino's still existed, we had the Putnam Valley Rotary and the Yorktown Rotary.
Right.
They were had their meetings at our restaurant, and my father was a member of both, and they had their functions. And you're right, the works they did.
It's unbelievable, actually.
Even back then, you saw these people. You wanted to talk about togetherness and getting together and for common causes, especially this time of year.
And I think one of
it was an amazing thing.
And so what happened is one of the men got up and you know, they were trying to raise $2,000 for the Salvation Army, you know, collection, and they had this one man got up and goes, "We're a little short. It's like, you know, 1,890 or something like that." And then when John Weeks got up, was being inducted, John, I think it was, I hope I'm not, it doesn't matter. I believe it was him, or somebody at his table at least, who said, "We'll make up the difference." You know, it's things like that. That's really what the holidays are about.
Right, but now the Yorktown Rotary meets at Murphy's, and 2 years ago during the local elections, I was asked to speak before them as columnist, political opinion speaker. And Anthony Grasso is a member of the Yorktown
Tony Grasso,
Rotary, yes.
Sure, everybody knows Tony.
He was my CCD teacher.
Right.
When I was in CCD. And the first thing I mentioned to everybody was that Anthony Grasso was my CCD teacher who instilled on me, or tried to instill on us kids, the moral values and the way to live a life in a holy manner.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I got to work in the city, and I mentioned this to Mr. Grasso, that I found out how wrong he was, because sitting was so much fun. And
the other thing, just one more thing about the Peekskill Rotary, it was really nice. They had an exchange student, this lovely young person, Emma Bell, I believe her last name was. She's been here for a year, doing half the time she was a junior at Peekskill High School, then the other half she was a senior. She's going back at the end of the year from Australia. That's another great thing they do. And they have another, I think that they say from Portugal, they had another exchange student as well that they host. So they do a lot of different things that are really great for the community and for individuals.
Well, believe it or not, Bruce, I actually do have a salvo for Christmas.
No, I believe it, by the way.
And it goes back to one of the first columns, one of the first holiday columns I wrote for the North County News. And there I'm saying holiday when I should be saying Christmas.
Right.
Because the column was called "Have a Merry Christmas, Not a Happy Holiday."
And by the way, have I told you, this is not an exaggeration. Just about every day, it happened again yesterday right on cue, people come up to me and I just want to thank them. You know, it's a holiday season, Thanksgiving, holidays, you know. I want to thank it. People come up to me constantly and say, you know, it's bittersweet. I think I've said it before on the show, but it keeps happening. And you know how they miss the North County News. They really miss the North County News.
By
They
the
say
way,
there's
who
nothing
is our
else like it.
sponsor of Booster Blog Goes Bazzo? We forgot to mention our sponsor.
I did. I mentioned Penny Saver, Chase Media Group, Carla Chase, and Frank Rich.
And Merry Christmas to Carla and Frank.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Who are
By the way,
the most
Merry
generous
Christmas.
generous people you could know.
Bought your Christmas present too. Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you, Bazzo. And yours is.
And it's got a centerfold.
And yours is on the sleigh. I mean, on the way.
Anyway,
you slay me.
What I want to go into is this this holiday season, as people say. You know, the school's calendar was based on the agricultural community, and so
that's food for thought. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason I'm saying this. That if Christmas was not here, they would not be having this time of the year off. They would be in school, because the summer was off for the crops.
You mean they're not off because of Hanukkah?
No, they weren't off.
Oh.
And you know that as well as I do. Yes. I'm talking about when the calendar was initially, it was based on the same with daylight savings time. It was based that we were an agricultural, primarily an agricultural nation.
Right.
And we still haven't gotten away from that. And if Christmas wasn't in December, nobody would be taking off. And if you remember when you went to school, it was the Christmas vacation. All of a sudden, and then all of a sudden people, you know.
People what?
Getting offended by this word Christmas and the separation of church and state.
You got it backwards. The people who get offended are the ones who hear Happy Holidays instead of Christmas. What does it matter? It's the holidays.
Because
Why do they get offended?
Because it is based on a false premise of separation of church and state.
The greeting? We're talking about the greeting right
now.
The
greeting itself comes from not wanting to offend anybody, to encompass everything. Even you said, and Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is a made-up holiday.
No, the point is...
It's not even a real holiday. At least Hanukkah has an existence in tradition.
People say the greeting from their own perspective, not from the listener's perspective. I had people I was at the Yorktown supervisor, like Michael Grace's holiday party, really, which he has every year for his law firm, the other day. Several people, I'm Jewish, Hanukkah, thank you. Several people said to me, Merry Christmas. They're saying it from their perspective because I'm Jewish. Maybe they know it, maybe they don't know it. They reflect, that doesn't bother me, but I do not say...
But businesses, people, they get self-conscious, and it's based
on... Why shouldn't they say Happy Holidays? What's wrong with Happy Holidays? It includes everybody. It's inclusionary. And the reason I'm getting into this is my blog this Christmas week is called Gracious Goodness, meaning be gracious. If somebody's saying Happy Holidays, the gracious thing is to say thank you, period.
What? The White House lit a holiday tree. New York City lights a holiday tree. It's a Christmas tree.
Okay, that's a separate issue, by the way. I don't disagree with that. I'm talking about what you say to somebody.
It's the
thought that counts. Whatever they say, what's the difference?
The stores have holiday sales. It's Christmas sales. They're not buying.
It's not a Christmas sale from every buyer's perspective. If you celebrate Christmas, it's a Christmas sale. If you don't, then it's really not a Christmas sale.
Because
it's not a Christmas sale for me.
This is only a recent phenomenon, maybe in the last 20 years.
That's called progress.
That's not progress.
Oh, wait a minute. So you're saying the way things used to be were always better, so we should go back to gaslighting, I guess.
Because all of it is based on what I'm ticked off on Wednesday, the state Court of Appeals, the highest court of the state, ruled that New York City can no longer rent their auditoriums on Sunday to churches with small congregations because of the separation of church and state.
Okay, but that's a separate issue. Just allow me quickly to read this because it's very pertinent to this discussion. And it's great because I was going to bring it up, but you brought it up, and I have my blog here. If a Grinchy shopper can't abide by a store clerk who smilingly intones Happy Holidays in place of Merry Whatever because the clerk is dutifully following store policy, the offended customer has larger issues to address and stamp out that have nothing to do with the holiday season or season's greetings.
I don't hold a clerk responsibility for
Say whatever you please in return, but to question what you just heard is quite unseasonable. So
yeah,
that's
but
my comment.
The only thing is people that take out on an employee what a company policy is. You blame the company because they set the policy.
I don't blame
you can't go after the employee for upholding it.
Should a company charge different prices to different customers? They should say the same thing to everybody.
No, you can charge different. Yes,
you
can charge
not
different.
Really,
yes, you can.
I don't think the FTC would appreciate it.
You can actually charge different prices. If you have a preferred customer, they're entitled to a discount.
Okay. All right, so you got me on that one.
But the point, what I want to get into, because I want to make sure, Dennis, you give us enough time to go into Scrooge.
The point is they advertise pretty much one price to everybody. And the season's greetings to a customer is advertising.
Anyway, I hope our third guest, Dennis, reminds you that I need about 5 minutes to go or 7 minutes to get into Scrooge, so let us know at the time.
All right.
Anyway, the separation of church and state, false premise. It was written from a court case in 1947, Everson versus the Board of Education. I wrote about this in my column. New Jersey Township, Edwin Township in New Jersey wanted to reimburse parents for their children's fares of use of bus transportation, which was the only form of transportation that district employed. It also included parents who sent their children to parochial school. In the majority opinion, Hugo Black cites a letter by Thomas Jefferson to a Baptist community in 1801 in which he uses the wall of separation between church and state. It was in a letter from Thomas Jefferson. It is not in the Constitution. It is not in any of the amendments or of the Bill of Rights of a separation of church and state. To rent to a church or religious organization space does not mean you're endorsing that religion. To call a Christmas tree at a tree lighting doesn't mean you're endorsing Christian religion.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree about that.
And this whole thing about separation of church and state, it has caused so much dissension and dissent amongst people.
Well, dissent is part of our heritage.
Yeah, but if you're going to dissent, you dissent over things that actually exist. I said this was from a letter from Thomas Jefferson, and everybody is taught that it's in the Constitution.
Right.
The separation of church and state is not. All it says is that the United States shall not endorse any religion, meaning the Church of England. There was no going to be a national religion. Right. But it doesn't stop anybody from endorsing all religions.
And something you're saying, this thought occurs to me as you're saying that. The Constitution of the United States arguably is the most abused piece of parchment or document in the sense of how people will twist it and spin it to their own interests and advantages.
Including the courts. Including the courts.
I'm not excluding anybody. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they take things for their own purposes and twist it to suit their argument. When, as you're saying, it wasn't necessarily intended that way.
It's amazing. The Constitution is on one page, and how many books does it take now to interpret the Constitution over the years?
And of course, the Constitution, as with any document like that, is of its time. What is in it, is informed by the moment in which the authors of it were living in. Things have changed a lot.
And our founders, we're going to waste time on this. Our founders put a mechanism in to
amendments?
Yes. Right. And it took the 3/4 of the states to make it happen. But you have people in both parties that use the courts to circumvent the amendment process.
Yes, right.
But the Founding Fathers did recognize that times were going to change, and they put a process in to acknowledge that change with the people's consent. Remember, the premise is the government is the creation of the people. We are not the creation of government.
7 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We're going to go
thank
right.
You, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much. A Christmas Carol. I've written about this. Charles Dickens. Holiday fare like It's a Wonderful Life. Right. Standard fare. And we are told every year, I used to watch this every day when I wrote this in my column. After midnight mass, I would come home and watch A Christmas Carol starring Alastair Sim. It was on Channel 5, the black and white version, which to me was the best interpretation of this.
Alastair Sim's,
second best would be George C. Scott's version.
And what's his name? Another version, older, is Reginald.
Right, that's the original.
Oh, he's the original.
Right, that was from 1937.
Okay, and Sims is what, 40s? Or?
51.
Oh, 51, okay.
But that was the best. But George C. Scott being a much better actor than Alastair Sim.
Great actor, George C. Scott.
But
anyway, do you remember the first movie you saw George C. Scott in?
Yes, Patton. We took a class trip.
Okay, no.
Took a class trip.
Dennis said it in my ear. Paul Newman's great movie, The Hustler, directed by Robert Ross.
You owe me money!
Right.
Remember that scene?
I think maybe the first frame you see George C. Scott, he's a young, very good-looking actor, and Paul Newman is playing Fast Eddie Felsen, the pool hustler, before Minnesota Fats. Jackie Gleason comes in, and he's playing pool, and George Scott, is the pool agent, right? For Minnesota Fats.
Right.
And George C. Scott is sort of in his way, in his line of sight, or he's in his way, and Paul Newman says, "Can you please move?" And you see George C. Scott goes, "Okay." Like it was like, but yeah, that was his. He was like an overnight sensation.
But it took me a number of years to realize that Christmas Carol is propaganda. The Occupy Wall Street people would love this show. You have Scrooge, a successful person, is cast as the villain. And you have Bob Cratchit, whose wife spit out more kids than they can afford. Right. He's the victim. And he's the one we should be rooting for.
Yeah, he's the hard-working man, right?
And it isn't right. And it isn't until Scrooge starts dispensing of his wealth that we feel he's been reformed. Yet, if you revisit the story, we consider that Scrooge, who is the villain, and makes a success of himself in spite of the odds that any more generous God would have given him. He's born, his mother dies giving his birth. His father banishes him.
Scrooge, you're talking
yes,
about. Scrooge,
right.
Yes, right.
His father blames him for his wife's death, Scrooge's mother, banishes him to private school where he is abandoned to spend all his Christmases alone.
Yes.
Now, does he wallow in victimhood? No, he turned to books to better educate himself. He didn't wallow in victimhood. And then one day he reaches his teen years, his sister, the only one that loved him for himself, says, I've convinced Daddy to take you home. We're going to be a family. She fills Scrooge with hope. Not to last, though, because once he gets home, his father sells him into servitude to Fitzwillie and Sons. And it is there that he meets who will be his true friend, Jacob Marley. Now, a guy that's supposed to be as evil as Scrooge should not have earned a friend that was willing to come back from the dead and help him. Obviously, he couldn't have been as much of a bastard as we think he is.
Good point, yes.
Now, he gets a girlfriend who only wants to marry him as long as they're poor. The minute he attains wealth, she dumps him.
Makes no sense, you're saying.
Right. Right, so Scrooge...
Well, although it says something about her values, but, yeah.
But
she's not going to marry him for his money.
Right. And then Scrooge's sister, the only woman that loves him, she dies giving birth to his nephew. He, brokenhearted, he leaves the room. And then we see the scene that he never saw until he revisits with the ghost of Christmas past. His sister coming back to life and saying, take care of my nephew. And then she dies.
Was that an audition?
Right.
I thought I'm the one who does auditions around here, but okay. But yeah, and Dennis is gently reminding you, get to the point.
The point is we got Bob Cratchit, who's supposed to be the hero. 7 years, we see him 7 years later, still at the lousy paying job with Scrooge. Whose fault is that? If he was as good a clerk, then he should have worked for somebody else. Maybe he was being paid his worth. It's not Scrooge's fault he couldn't afford his family.
No, I agree. For example, why didn't he just like go on Monster and get, look for another job?
The point is he was probably being paid what he was worth. Because, and then all of a sudden, and to really pull on a heartstring, Dickens goes in the lame kid. And that's Scrooge's fault, too, that Tiny Tim is lame and he's going to die. Because this whole community...
Well, you have to admit, Tiny Tim was a pretty lame singer.
But according to who was doing the singing, yes. But I will tell you this. You have a whole town that is supposed to be full of the Christmas spirit, but only Scrooge can save him, the mean guy.
So that's your revisionist, contrarian...
Scrooge is socialist propaganda. Scrooge pulled himself up from his bootstraps by not believing he was a victim.
Listen, Charles Dickens was nothing if not a social commentator. That's what his whole
He was a socialist. He was a socialist. Commentator. He wants you to feel guilty about attaining wealth.
And one of the most brilliant writers in human history, by the way. I mean, Christmas Carol, in terms of how it's entrenched in our culture and consciousness, is a story of like biblical proportions.
I am not saying I don't enjoy the movie. Right. I still watch it. Right. I have them on DVD. I have them on VCR. I'm just not fooled by the message anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah. No, but it's not, seriously, I think it's a very creative and insightful interpretation you have. I mean, it is. It's,
but I think
very revealing.
I think that's where our class warfare starts his childhood, with this indoctrination that rich people are inherently evil because the only way they got their money was by being miserly and stingy and screwing their fellow man. Right. And that's not true.
It's literary license. It's drama.
Yeah, but it's indoctrinated a whole generations of people.
To your point, whose fault is that? He only wrote it. It's up to people to do with it what they will. And I mean, obviously, you're skeptical.
No, I just educated myself.
All right. Okay, time to
say, and believe it or not, these are my opinions. You may beg to differ.
And when Bruce the Blog listens, people, especially Santa Claus Bazzo, talk. Happy holidays, everybody.
And Merry Christmas to you.
And Happy Hanukkah. And happy whatever.
We'll see you next week.